talk about today. We will be talking about everything that happened to us from the moment we leave our country and the emotions that we have. I would like to ask you, what's the main emotion that we have from the moment we leave our country? Yes, we experience all of this. There is one feeling that accompanies all this process, and it's stress. Yes, it's stress. So we'll be talking about the stress and how it is important to keep the stress levels down. So I'm going to start by differentiating the refugee experience from everybody else, all the other immigrants. And I'm not going to address the refugee experience here today because it's much more complex. And why? Because the refugees, they do not have an option. We have an option. If you came as a refugee, you didn't have an option. They experience war, persecution, and they have to leave. Most of the time in a rush, and they don't have time to plan. They don't have time to organize anything, and they have to accept the first country that will give them a visa. They cannot get in touch. A lot of refugees cannot get in touch with their family members and friends, otherwise they would be in risk. They cannot go back to their country or they will be killed. They cannot go for holidays. A lot of refugees can never go back to their country. So if you didn't come as a refugee, you have options. You know, you could plan your trip, you could organize what belongings you would bring. You can get in touch with your family at any time. You can go back for holidays. So this is an option. It makes a huge difference because when we have an option, we have a sense of control over your life. So now we are going to talk about pre-migration stressors. What is this? Everything that we have to do in our country before we leave. So we concern about our passport, our visa, business that we will be leaving behind, choose what to bring. It seems simple, you know, make bags to travel to somewhere, another place. But it's not an easy task for those who are coming to live here currently, for example. If you decide not to bring everything in a container, if you have to choose from your belongings, from everything you have in your life, you have to put in two bags, it's not an easy task because you have personal belongings that you really like and you cannot bring everything. My son cried a lot of times when you remember, oh, I don't have that toy. No, it's gone, it's in Brazil. You know, it's a simple task, but it's a little bit hard when you do. What else? We're concerned about the new language, about if our children are going to adapt, if we are going to get a job, how is to live? I thought about this, how is to live in another language? Every day, go to work and work, talking all the time in another language. It's not very easy when we imagine. Am I going to make friends? How can I have a friend if I cannot talk in my language? You know, how can I open my heart with someone who doesn't speak the same language? Because language is a very important tool to connect people. When I talk to someone in my language, we share the same signals. We share the same culture, but with a different signals, different culture. Sometimes there are many misunderstandings. What else? In job, some people fear traveling by plane. We have to deal with the anticipatory grief. What is this? When we are still in our country, we know that from the moment we leave there, we don't know when we are going back. So we start to miss our family and friends even before we leave. We're talking about stress all the time. The good stress from the beginning, and then after a long period of time, we start to feeling this stress that is not healthy for us. Our brain is organized to survive, and it's divided in three parts. The reptilian brain is that pink part. We are born with that part, and that part is responsible for the basic functions in our body. And then within the yellow part is the limbic system. That part is where the stress response happens in our brain. And around is the neocortex, is the thinking part of the brain. When we are, let's imagine that we are walking on the street and you hear a noise, a strong noise. You just, whoa, what is this? This reaction from the time you listen to hear the noise and turn around to try to protect yourself, lots of these things happen in your brain. A lot of connections, a lot of hormones are sent to different parts of our body for us to have this connection, this reaction to protect ourselves. What happens is the limbic system has some parts that through the sensory organs, our eyes, our ears, we see around the environment and we receive these signals. Is it a threat or not? So the limbic system, specifically the thalamus, receives these signals sent to the amygdala in the limbic system, and the amygdala will scan, is it a threat or not? And then send the signal to the neurocortex to analyze the situation. It's a thinking part of our brain, so then we analyze, this part will analyze if this is a threat or not. And then the neocortex sends the signal again to the amygdala and say, no, it's not a threat. And then we relax. So this is a good stress reaction. It's for us to protect ourselves. What happens when we are stressed every day for a long period of time? A lot of people come to Australia and they say, I have a plan to be here 1 year. I'm going to study English, learn English here because it's much better to learn here. I'll be exposed to the language. So at the end of the year, I'm going to do the IELTS test and I apply for the permanent visa. But what happened to them? They face all of this. They have to do all of this that we said here now. And they feel very stressed and their thinking part of their brain shuts down. And they cannot concentrate. They cannot learn the language. They don't pass in the IELTS test. I saw several couples going back to Brazil with nothing. They spent everything. They couldn't pass in the IELTS test and they had to go back. So these are the signs of stress. If you feel like you are having these signs, you have to do something very soon to relax. It's very important to keep the stress levels down so we will be functioning healthily. Get 8 hours of sleep. Sleep is the best thing we can do for our health. Why? Because when we sleep, we produce a brain chemical called BDNF. This is the growth hormone that is also responsible for a lot of functions in our body, especially neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. What's neuroplasticity? The ability that the neurons has to connect with each other and change according to the environmental change. We change to adapt it, and our brain, our neurons need to connect with each other. It's very affected if we do not sleep well and do not produce this hormone. Neurogenesis is the capacity to produce new neurons. So it's very important to sleep. There is much more. You can read in my website much more about this BDNF brain chemical. Eat healthy food. Avoid coffee and sugar. Sugar and coffee, for example, they stop the production of a chemical called GABA, which is responsible for making us feel calm, relaxed, and have a good night's sleep. So if you eat a lot of sugar, take a lot of coffee, you cannot sleep well. So emotional immigration and acculturation. Acculturation is a long process of cultural transformation of a person, which includes assimilation of the new culture and its values while keeping the original culture and grieving for what was left behind in the country of origin. At the end, you are living in another country. So if you want to be happy here, you have to bring your heart. You have to bring everything to be here and love people around you, the place you are living. Enjoy, open your heart to learn, to grow. This is the emotional immigration, not only your body. If you are here for just 1 year, I'm here for 6 months. Doesn't matter, because today is the day you are alive. Nobody knows if you will be alive tomorrow. So the day we call today, you have to enjoy. Enjoy your 6 months, your 1 year, forever, but enjoy the day. Bring your heart with you. Understand all difficulties as temporary moments. Everything is going to pass. And embrace all circumstances, whether good or bad, as rich opportunities to learn and grow. Do not compare yourself